Well, that's a bit of an anticlimax as far as Gujarat Titans games and innings go. We're expecting the unexpected from them, expecting big hitting from the likes of Rahul Tewatia and David Miller, but all they've managed is 143. That after they won the toss and wanted to bat first. So you think Punjab Kings, the happier team at halftime? We look back at a number of incidents in that first innings on Maruti Suzuki Presents ESPN Cricket for T20 timeout, powered by IQ 9 5G. Is that Punjab just all the way, one-way traffic?
It feels that way. I mean, it didn't feel like they did anything special to dismiss Gujarat for 143. Yeah. They were consistent, and I can't think of the wicket showing any devils or anything like that. So it must be a little bit slow, but credit to Kings that they just hit a decent length often enough. And there were a couple of really soft dismissals for Gujarat. You think of Hardik Pandya, you even think of Rashid Khan, where how often do you see the just been nicked through to the keeper? It just doesn't seem to happen off defensive shots in T20 cricket.
Yeah, how would you sum up that innings, Aakash? And what about that surface? Was that challenging and 143 might be different, or was that just poor?
See, the pitch is slightly on the slower side. There is no doubt about it. It's not your 180, 190 kind of surface. Secondly, you mentioned something at the start, Rahul Tewatia, blitz, and David Miller coming and smashing. All that happens in the second innings, never in the first innings. You will struggle to find a Rahul Tewatia innings in the first innings of a T20 game. It always comes in the second half. David Miller struggled because the ball was stopping a bit. I think they got a little lucky that Rahul Chahar didn't have to, or rather wasn't there to finish his quota of 4 overs, or their life would have been even tougher. Are we surprised? Well, we discussed this in the pre-show as well, that Gujarat's batting is a little light and it is too dependent on Shubman Gill and Hardik Pandya. Once both of them are dismissed, you find that there is a lack of depth.
Okay, very interesting thoughts those. Let me just pick up from what Aakash said, just about batting second versus batting first. There's guys that seem more focused, more tuned in when there's an equation, when there's a bit of pressure, and that's what Tewatia and Miller are doing. Suddenly when they bat first, not having as much fun.
Yeah, it's about the equation. What you can see, what's in front of you, you can understand, you can build an innings, you can just simply see what you need to do. And when you bat first, you have to assess the wicket, you have to assess what a relevant score is, and then you possibly have to go a little bit harder than that just so you don't undervalue that assessment. So in this situation, the likes of Miller and Tewatia, to be successful, I think in those first innings scores, they need a base. The top order, the top 3 or 4 needs to hand something off to them so they can almost remain the same way they are in the second innings and just go aggressive. And they didn't get that today. I think they were sort of 40 for 3, 40 for 4, something like that. So it's difficult when you've got that style of player, when you ask them to do something completely different. Whereas Miller's experienced and he can probably handle that, whereas Tewatia is set for that role of finishing.
Now, I think in fairness, we have to look at the 2 wickets that Aakash Chopra points out. Shubman Gill, Hardik Pandya. Let's start with Hardik, because after this pool of runs that he's got in the first few games, he's now got scores of 10, 3, 1. What about today's dismissal? Was that brilliant bowling? Just seemed rather innocuous.
I think I've been too tough on Rishi Dhawan. I haven't rated him as the 5th bowler, but to get the crucial wicket of Hardik Pandya, obviously he did his job. It just looks like a ball that sat in the wicket and therefore it's a lazy shot. And probably Hardik a little bit saying, this is Rishi Dhawan. I'll take him down when I need to. I'll just get through a couple of balls and then go. So it didn't feel like he was, I suppose, steeled for the contest. And sometimes that can be your undoing.
Hardik Pandya, 3 low scores. Just tuned off, looking at where they are on the points table, Aakash?
See, that is likely to happen, right? They're only aberrations. When you see somebody scoring consistently over a period of 14 odd games, you will see a bit of a slump. You will see a series of low scores. In Hardik's case, the last game was just the battle with the ego, and that came in the form of Umran Malik. He just wanted to take him on and show him who the boss is. And then this time around, just a normal, innocuous dismissal, as you mentioned earlier. But see, lack of feet movement is a thing that is revered in T20 cricket, because that allows you to be free and then allow you to be a stroke maker that you want to be. But the flip side of the same story is, If the ball is pitched at the just the right spot, it darts just a little bit away, it finds the outside edge. So it was one of those dismissals. And what happened in the first half of the IPL was something that really surprised all of us and pleasantly surprised that Hardik can
Yeah.
be so consistent in T20 format. What's happening right now is just par for the course for any player who's playing T20 cricket, because failures happen more for batters as compared to the runs that they score. In a 14 game tournament, you find 5 or 6 big scores. The rest are actually failures.
Interesting that you bring that up nicely for my next question on Shubman Gill, Aakash, where we saw 2 incredible innings. But out of 10 innings now, we've not seen a lot more. Now, would you hold the run
No.
out against him? What are we looking at today from Shubman Gill?
Oh, well, it was his call. It was his call. He actually made a face at Sandeep, but it wasn't. It had nothing to do with Sandeep. He wouldn't have reached at all. It was just a sheer misjudgment. He looked tuned in. To be fair, he looked actually all right while he lasted. Perhaps a bit too eager for my liking. That and the same could be said for Ridhiman Saha. That in their minds, when they chose to bat first, the team or whispered in their ears that, you know what, it's still a 180 pitch, but you don't do that if it is a 180 pitch you chase, you don't bat first. So he looked over eager, and that can happen when you're going through a run of low scores. And yes, so criticism may not be for, again, misjudgment, yes, run out, yes, but the last few low scores, Shubman Gill will have to put his hand up and say that he's not really been playing well. His feet aren't really going where they should be, because unlike Hardik, see, he's a top order batter, he's a test batter, and he's got the pedigree and the potential. So make better use of it, and he hasn't done that over the last few innings.
All right, quick summary of the Punjab bowling effort. While we look at Rabada and we look at 4 for 33, I think quietly the 4th and 5th bowler, or rather 5th and 6th bowler, done a very decent job, Dan, especially after Rahul Chahar was off injured.
Across the board, I don't think Kings could be any happier with their bowling performance. And we talked about before the game that they were reliant on Rabada, and they were again today, but he just performed. But they got the complementary pieces. Sandeep Sharma, once again, whenever he's put in a role aside from the death, he seems to do a fantastic job. Arshdeep Singh just keeps impressing, and Rishi Dhawan performed his role. And then I think the back end were getting those overs from Livingston, who actually, he looked good bowling off spin tonight. I know he goes to the leg spin probably a little bit more, but his off spin looked very challenging, particularly on the surface, and that was a crucial wicket of David Miller. So they'll be a satisfied team, and maybe they're the bowling unit that needs to be on these sort of surfaces to get the best out of them. The flip side is whether their batting can deal with this sort of surface.
To be fair, we have showered decent praise on Punjab's bowlers who've done the job more often than not, kept them in games, the exception of perhaps a couple of games where Odin Smith was guilty of conceding a few too many. The batting is the question. But if there is a game out of this, if it is 143, it's because of Sai Sudarshan. Aakash Chopra pointed out, don't be surprised if you see a 50 from Sai Sudarshan. So we're not surprised at all if Aakash has said it. Did well, Aakash?
Oh, yes, he did. And it was a bit of a surprise, actually, when he got a few games in the beginning. He got some 30-odd runs. He looked impressive. I think Brabourne Stadium was where he actually played. And then he was dropped. He was dropped because Vijay Shankar was fit and available. They went back to Vijay. I was a little surprised that why not continue with Sai Sudarshan, because he was looking so good. And in this game, getting the opportunity to bat at 3, and not an easy surface, wickets falling around you, tumbling around you, and you're batting right till the end. Once again, a little kid, a young boy has put his hand up and has made a match out of this. See, they could have been bowled out for 120. Now they have managed 20 overs, and they have some runs on the board, and they have the bowling to defend it. Whether they will or they won't, it's a separate issue, but Sai Sudarshan was very impressive with his technique against spin and his just temperament to just keep going, taking the game deeper. That it takes time, to understand the nuances of a T20 game. He's young, he's not played a lot, so he's very, very impressive.
Like what you see of Sai Sudarshan, Dan?
And I like his intent from ball one. I think that's the thing that separates him. Sometimes as a young batsman, you're coming into it and trying to find your feet, but he feels like he's confident. He's able to step out there in the first couple of balls, irrespective of who's bowling, and try to take them game on. And I think we've talked about that a lot. When a batsman tries to take control or sets the tempo or tone, it affects the bowler, and therefore you can get on top a little bit quicker rather than trying to get through a few balls and get yourself in, and then you can try to catch up at the back end. So I think he's a style of player that can really work in the IPL.
All right, good day for Sai Sudarshan. Now, Punjab Kings have a job to do, just to get the runs, but this is not a team that's been winning as regularly as the Titans, and they've made one significant change up top. It looks like Shikhar Dhawan and Johnny Bairstow have walked out, so Mayank Agarwal presumably will bat at 3. Let's get a quick reaction on that. Dan, like the move?
I do, and good on Mayank for being receptive to it. I think that's part of leadership as well, realising that to put Johnny Bairstow in his best spot could be opening, and potentially put Mayank in his best spot where he can assess a little bit of the situation, batting at 3, potentially 4, wherever he ends up.
Aakash?
Well, I think we mentioned in the pre-show as well. Will Mayank actually step down? Has he said something at the toss? He didn't, but now he's batting in the middle order. Yeah, it serves two purposes. I like Mayank at the top personally, but then if he's going through a run of low scores, there is Johnny Bairstow and a Bhanuka Rajapaksa in the side who should be batting in the top 3, both of them actually. And there is a Rashid Khan's threat to deal with. So he's better off dealing with that threat as compared to, say, a Johnny Bairstow walking in when Rashid has already dismissed a couple of batters.
Okay, fair enough. Prediction, Aakash, Punjab to get the job done or Gujarat to put in another unlikely, incredible win? It would be one if they defend this.
We are that part of the tournament, Raunak, that what's good for the tournament? I think Punjab winning is good for the tournament.
Yeah, I'm with you. We know this. We're covering every game, watching every game. We want the tournament to get spicy. Dan Vettori, you're going to be watching and covering every game as well. You want Punjab to win this?
I'll go with the consensus. Yeah.
All right, fair enough.
Happy.
Let's see if the Kings do this. It's the Punjab Kings, so anything can happen. Maybe they will make a game of this. And the Titans bowling attack, we've already said, is one of the best in the league. Let's pick up the chat with Aakash Chopra and Dan Vettori at the end of the game on Maruti Suzuki Presents ESPN Cricket for T20 Timeout, powered by Eco 95G.